Driverless cars, connected services, new sharing concepts. The automotive industry is in the midst of change. The Internet of Things is opening up a whole new world of possibilities that will push the boundaries of mobility. But what will the future really look like on the roads? One thing is for certain. New technologies are going to revolutionize today's mobility. They will turn the journey into a digitally enhanced experience and connect the vehicle to its surroundings. With Bosch, connected mobility is becoming a reality, more efficient, safer, and more comfortable and convenient.
Itaú Veículos. Soluções completas, ferramentas modernas, alta tecnologia. Reconhecimento facial, mais segurança e agilidade na compra e venda de veículos. Chat na plataforma digital. Comunicação mais fácil entre a concessionária e nosso time. Open Banking. União entre plataformas e parceiros. Inteligência artificial. Essencial na captura e gestão de leads. Soluções de mobilidade. Com a Connect Car, seu cliente vai mais longe. Olhamos para o futuro. Queremos sempre mais. Vamos juntos? Itaú Veículos. Nosso negócio é viabilizar o seu.
Mounting exterior automotive parts can be a slow process that requires the use of a noxious chemical adhesion promoter. However, our Tesa ACX primerless line of high-performance double-sided acrylic foam tapes eliminates the need for primers. These tapes quickly achieve a high level of strength and provide the thermal expansion characteristics needed when mounting side moldings, decorative trims, emblems, and other exterior attachment parts. To learn more about the benefits and cost savings of using our Tesa ACX Plus primerless line on difficult-to-bond substrates such as polypropylene EPDM, TPO, and TPE, visit tesatape.com.
Eu adoro planta. A gente já é planta dentro do carro, Deus me livre. Ninguém vive não.
Hello, good morning. You're all most welcome to the last day of our automotive business 2020 or ABX 2020. I'm super happy to have you all here with us this morning, and the day is going to be very special. There was no better way to close this meeting than talking with inspiring leaders of the mobility sector. They are very influent and they will bring fantastic content to share with you. So my many thanks to them and to all of you for being here with us. But do participate, please. I'm talking to you, but I want you all to continue helping us to put together all these fantastic chats we've had so far. Use the chat, send in questions, use this opportunity to be closer to the main leaders in the sector and clarify your doubts. We shall be very pleased to exchange with you. ABX is coming to the last day, but this doesn't mean if you lost some content that was generated this week, it doesn't mean you won't be able to see it. All the content generated throughout the week, all the content we generated before we even went on the air, we have takeaways and videos and podcasts that were recorded, all the content we have in the premium area. If you're not a premium subscriber, you're wasting time, because we have some fantastic material there about heavy and light vehicles and the value chain and so on, apart from the master classes we had this week. If you're not a subscriber, do upgrade your subscription, and until December all the content we generated is going to be there. I will give you a few figures that we had this week in ABX. 58 CEOs helped us put this content together. This afternoon we shall have a masterclass on leadership, and another 45 CEOs will help us build this last content that's going to be generated along the day today, this afternoon. But this morning we have lots of special guests. I have a few reminders to you. I will start by drawing a number to see who will be the winner of this book. It was Rafael Abe from Jeito and Fernanda Ribeiro from Nakata. Our production will get in touch with you, and I would like to remind you that our journey doesn't end here. We have another meeting programmed for 24 and 25 November. It's going to be called Diversity. You cannot possibly miss it, and I hope to see you there again. I have to thank lots of people who were with us during this journey. Apart from the fantastic audience we have, everything was put together with much devotion, much care, much attention, thanks to these high professionals we have in automotive business. My many thanks go to them and to the technical team, the translators who were here throughout this week, making it possible for us to extend our scope, and our partners who helped us with the lives, and all the sponsors, these fantastic brands that had faith in the relevance of our meeting. Thank you all very much for being with us throughout this journey, and all of this will continue till December. We had a team of ambassadors who worked very hard with us to help create the proposal of this event. We had to be digital this year. We were all excited to have it in May. If you were there last year in the São Paulo Center, you will know how fantastic it was with 3,000 people. but we decided to have it digitally this year, and we had this fantastic audience. All the same, I'll tell you about it at the end of today. At the end of the day today, we're going to have a musical live, and I hope you celebrate with us by listening to good music, having lunch, and enjoying it. And I have another spoiler. AB is commemorating, celebrating 25 years of existence. We have worked a lot, we have transformed lots of people, and we were very active in this sector. And today, officially, we have a special project full of content and inspiration to celebrate 25 years of ABs, and a project called What Next? This is just a little spoiler of this concept we're going to share with you. And after the next video, just come online. Hello, everyone. Good morning and welcome, all of you. You spent the whole week with us, and you're very welcome. And those who are joining us today are also welcome. And today is Friday the 13th, and we're very pleased to promote a discussion that's very important on the leadership of the automotive sector. And for that, without further ado, I invite people to talk about the new partnerships and paths to promote mobility. And I then invite Antonio Filosa, the president of FCA Latin America, and Pietro Labriola. He's the CEO of TIM Brazil. Hello, good morning. Good morning. It's a pleasure to welcome you to our Italian panel here. It's very nice. Well, whereas as our audience starts warming up and starts sending us questions, I would like to ask you to tell us a little about the challenge of new partnerships in the automotive sector. Filosa, I would like to hear from you what it is like to build these new partners and suppliers. And then from Labriola, I would like to hear what it is like to work closer with industries for TIM. Filosa, please. Once again, thank you very much, Giovanna, and I send regards to Pietro. We are friends. Well, we have to establish strategies to be wider now, because the automotive sector is part of the FCA strategy. FCA considers we have to do two things for the future. First of all, we have to protect our business as usual, and during this pandemic, it has been severely impacted. There was a drop in volume, a drop in markets, and some parallel effects such as the foreign exchange and so on. And the second thing, we have to consider that cars are one of the players in mobility, because the sector is requiring other things as well. And when we try to enter this path of innovation, we have to understand where we will find competence, know-how. And when we talk about connectivity, for instance, we have to establish partnerships with relevant players in a world that we're only just beginning to understand and practice and transform into products and services. So, having established a partnership, for instance, with players that are very relevant in their own field, and we have very interesting interaction with them, such as Tim, for instance, with Pietro. And this is a very important step along the path we are creating, because we are creating an ecosystem together with other partners. And these partnerships will allow us to carry out together the open innovation that is needed to transform. It's going to be one of the factors of transformation of the industry for each one of the companies. Pietro, tell us about this process at TIM. Hi, Giovanna. Good morning, all. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you. Antonio, we're very good friends. Well, the first subject is perhaps to explain to all of you the change that is taking place in telecommunications. We used to be, I say we used to be because this happens to most companies. We were used to imagine the sale of a product to the end customer. However, technology has shown that connectivity becomes essential to connect things. We are talking about Internet of Things, machine to machine. And I was waiting here to be connected to talk to you, and I could see the ads from all the companies in the automotive sector and companies that work with us as well. And everywhere you find connectivity. So for connectivity operators in the future will have a very important role to connect things. Once you understand this notion that is going to be accelerated with 5G, then we can start understanding better which are the areas where you have to work and be closer to. The two areas we find with most growth and acceleration in the short term is agribusiness, and there are 3,500 municipalities, and we have their technology that will connect and control all the production process by agribusiness. The proximity with Fiat Chrysler is also important to understand the projects, because as Antonio said, we are two companies looking for innovation as models of competitiveness. Innovation doesn't stop. This is only the first step in a walk that will increase with 5G. I'll give you one example. Today in Brazil, you have more than 200 million SIMs connected to the network. In the future, you will have billions of SIMs, because it's no longer going to be a connection from a human being to another. It's going to be connectivity between things, one thing to another thing. And I find this amazing. Well, talking about connectivity, the two of you are here, and it is important to talk about the partnership FCA and TIM have announced recently to offer connected vehicles. I would like to hear from Filosa what he can say about it, and I would like to know from you what is the potential, what is the market FCA and TIM are aiming at, what is the business model going to be in order to create a further revenue. Well, thank you. It's very simple, and at the same time, it's complex. For quite some time now, the auto industry questions itself how to carry out the main three technological missions identified for the future of mankind: electrification as fuel, electricity as fuel without affecting the environment, like in Brazil with ethanol. And the second technology will take longer to come, but we're working hard on it. And the third one is precisely connectivity and connected services. Now, concerning this third, first of all, we have to talk about motors. The first drive is motors, the second one is driverless cars, and the third one is services. So it is very important to understand that we didn't have all the competence, all the skills required, so we had to have partners for us to build this journey together. What is our market, our growth horizon? Well, we are going to generate an environment of connectivity for cars, and cars will turn into many things. One of them will be a smartphone that can roll, that can move. We can go from convenience. For instance, we can act. We can drive certain functions in the car using a cell phone, and we can also gain time in some maintenance operations, because if we connect using IoT, if we connect the car with the OEM and the OEM with a dealer, we can generate maintenance routines that no longer require that our customer goes to the body shop, to the OEM, or the dealer rather, to have the car maintained. And it will also be possible for the car to connect with McDonald's 5 minutes before he leaves home. He can choose a sandwich and pay for the sandwich with a partnership with Visa, for instance, and then he passes by the drive-through at McDonald's and collects his sandwich. They will be able to fuel the car and pay without leaving the car, and so on. So the first proposal we want to offer to our customers, well, there are many possibilities. Imagination has no boundary. And then concerning the markets we have in mind, well, the market is mixed, because there are people using cell phones and there are people using the car. First of all, we have the early adopters, people who are very much tuned into technology, and they will be the first ones to understand and to require this service. And then there will be fast penetration throughout the automotive market. This partnership, like others, will be one of our levers to expand the market. So the value proposal for the client starts from an idea to enlarge our market penetration. There are other markets where cars still don't get. Our chat is very busy. Lots of people from FCA saying good morning and introducing themselves. And I repeat, we want to have your questions, please. So feel free. Filosa, in the last few years, the issue of connected solutions for vehicles, several surveys would say that this would be a trillionaire market for the auto industry. Is there an estimate as to the size of this future market in Brazil? Well, to measure this market, this will be something for the future. If it's going to be for 1 trillion reais or 10 trillion reais, this is not what we have in our radar. We just have a vague idea as to the size of the business. We've been doing clinics, we have started, and we are sure this is the first step for many more steps that will come. It's important to say for how many Brazilians and how many Latin Americans can we create solutions that are better than the solutions provided by competition. We are more interested in measuring the size of the market and how it can be different from others. Now, the second issue is to do with partnerships. We are partnering with top players in the market. As to how many Brazilians will be able to improve their lives using our solutions, well, I think everyone who decides to move, not only people who have driver's licenses, but people who choose mobility at all, will be able to work together with them. Tell us a little about this market for TIM and this business front. What do you think is its importance for the future? And also tell us about the consumers, because we have a country that is very much connected. We are at the avant-garde. We're pioneers in the adoption of many technologies, Uber and so on. Brazil is one of their main markets. So what is the scale for the growth of your offer in vehicles? Well, this is a very interesting chat. We would need much more time to give you lots of information, but I'll try and give you a short answer. First of all, if I can add to what Antonio was saying, we have to imagine a future where the definition of the business model will be constant evolution. It's like this. When androids or when cell phones were generated, nobody imagined the value of applications. Nowadays, when you consider the apps market, what Antonio said is very correct. We have to have an open ecosystem because we have to make infrastructure available to permit new businesses to happen. And the limit is only a limit for imagination. Imagine, try and think all the apps you use every day for everything. It's Uber, deliveries, jogging, your health. 10 years ago, none of this existed. So what happened was there was an ecosystem created, made available to allow for development. This is going to be the future of 5G as well. And in our contact with the Brazilian government is in the sense of allowing us to develop 5G quickly in order to develop other businesses. And then afterwards it's going to be 1 trillion or 10 trillion. But we will see what happens. Now, what is TIM doing and what do we think of our future? Well, our head office is in Italy. When I talk to Italy, I try to explain to them that Brazil is far more digital than a European country. And why is that? We are one of the third top users of Instagram, YouTube. Rio de Janeiro is the second city in the world to use Uber, and São Paulo is the first. We are also a top competitor in the creation of digital startups. So we have far more of a market than we think. We have a quantity of startups, especially in Sao Paulo, that is very interesting in many areas. So it's a country with much, much potential. And what are we going to do at TIM? I always say we need to continue to work on what pays our salaries, which is traditional services, connectivity. But we have to look beyond connectivity. And why? How is that? In our next plan, we're going to present uh, the transformation of TIM. Already today, we are selling connectivity, but we have an asset that is very important for some companies, namely 50 million clients, and we know them. So every month we collect the payment from 50 million clients, prepaid or paid at the end of the month. We have 6,000 stores. And you ask me, why do you tell me all this? Because partnerships with other industries start with connectivity, but there can be a continuation. We can make available all these functionalities. We assigned a partnership with C6, which is the best digital bank in Brazil, and we are allowing them to use our stores, our clients, but in the future, like with Antonio as well, in the future, if he wants to collect from clients, they can use our invoicing system. And if someone wants to buy a Netflix film, they can use our collection system as well. You see what I mean? Yeah, it's a whole ecosystem. A famous writer said that no man is an island. And nowadays we have to say no company is an island. The world of companies is going to be increasingly connected to work together. Very well. Gabriel, you mentioned, Labriola, you mentioned 5G for future services, and I would like to know from you where 5G stands nowadays in Brazil, since it will be able to automate vehicles a lot more. It is a technology which is essential for automation. Maybe for cars we have an arrival horizon for later on, but for trucks and things, it's perhaps easier. Very well. We shall be the first operator in Brazil to cover all municipalities in Brazil with 4G. This was one of our strong points when we talked to Antonio. So when 5G arrives, it won't arrive immediately throughout the country, but we have to guarantee connectivity for the whole country. The most important conversation we have today with the people who will establish the rules is the following. If I have to pay too much for the frequency, I will have less money to develop. And based on what we had in 4G, 4G was not allowing other industries to develop. We were just selling connectivity to the company. And I understood how much 4G costed, how much the network building cost. And I made a decision, a financial decision. When we now talk about 5G, it's different because I am enabling other sectors. I can phone Antonio and say, Antonio, dear, when are you going to launch a connected car? And how much will you charge for that? It is difficult to put the business together, but if I don't have the infrastructure, nobody can develop a new business model. So what we are telling the government is the following. If the frequency is less expensive, we can pledge to accelerate the building of infrastructure, and this will enable an open infrastructure to be available for many other industries to build their own business models. And I think the government has quite understood that. And this is progressing. What we believe will happen is the first coverage is perhaps going to happen in 2022. 5G is also a technology which allows, for instance, the manufacturing sector to use the 5G service to reduce the latency. In other words, for instance, with 4G, if you have a remote control to stop a car, the car will stop 3 meters later because of the delay in sending the order. 5G is much faster. We're always thinking that if we buy the frequency, we are considering using a technology called slicing. I can define a piece of the frequency in a certain area to be privately used by a company, and they can use this technology, they can rent it to use in their manufacturing process. But I could talk here about another hour, but I think my time is up. Well, we have a question addressed to Filosa. It comes from the audience. Vanir de Souza would like to know, what is the horizon, in your opinion, for cars to be used as a medium rather than just for mobility? And from FCA, he wants to know when these cars equipped with technology will be in the market. The answer to the first question is 2021, mid-year. There will be this connectivity that will give users the convenience of connectivity. Even maintenance can be carried out remotely, some repairs, that is. And later on, as we conclude our partnerships with McDonald's, Visa, Burger King, parking lots in shopping centers, several services will be plugged to the car because there is an ecosystem that is increasingly wide and allows for that. The point of departure for all this is going to be next year, 2021. And all of this will grow in a way that perhaps we cannot even foresee in the future. Now, what will be our first cars? Well, in the future, sometime all cars will have that, but we will begin with cars that will have the technology to turn the car into like a portfolio of services. And we like to keep some secrets also to surprise you. But very soon, already next year, there will be cars with these possibilities. Well, we're all anxious to see the launch of these cars. Since we're talking about new partnerships, FCA has in its horizon a very intense process of merging with another company to form Stellanti. And how can you get both companies to look in the same direction? Well, yes, the name was chosen a few months ago, and the logo type is very nice. Well, there is a time schedule that we're following in this merge, and it should take us to the creation of the new company in the beginning of next year. The merge is strict, disciplined, and we have made clear to shareholders and to all players in this merge, we have made two things clear. First of all, there are many opportunities that we can benefit from together. Second, this company shares many values and principles, and this will make the integration of culture and processes of the two companies are much easier. Sincerely, I think our time schedule is going to be very much respected. Maybe will be even faster than the time schedule. Well, this year is extremely challenging. We have an unheard of crisis that was not at all predicted, and yet we're talking here about new paths and for the mobility sector and for connectivity as well. I would like to hear from you two leaders about how to obtain a balance between the emergency of current situation and what can be done in the future. Well, during the crisis, I told the whole team that our challenge was to manage the emergency and organize the future. I think we shared with everyone the importance of being capable to work during the emergency without losing sight of the fact that we have a future. However, the main thing we learned from COVID was, first of all, a better understanding. We understood that we're all part of an ecosystem, people and companies. And second, and we now understand better that people can make a difference. Technology exists. So you shut everything down on the 20th March at night, and the 21st March everything was working remotely. Technology is there and it can help us very efficiently. So what was missing was not COVID. What was missing before was the courage to use digital technology to stand up to the world. Filosa, what is your take on this? Well, I think several things will have to be done when all of this is over. But there were several lessons. The first pleasant lesson, even though the context is not pleasant, was to rediscover the value of women and men who work for FCA. I've been with FCA for 21 years. It was Fiat before, and it will be Stellantis next year. But I want to say that after 21 years, I was 100% certain of the professional value in women and men at FCA. Now, at this specific point in time where there was a health crisis and a business crisis, then we could have a solidary look onto the safety of people and their families and the business. This combination between human values and professional values made even clearer to me what a pleasure and what a pride it is for me to work with 26,000 people, men and women in Latin America who work for FCA. And then the engagement of people and a vision as to how to protect people first, how to protect the company was very important, and then to walk towards the future, because perhaps the only certainty we have in uncertain times as these is that our history will continue in future. So it's three things: the pride, the privilege, and the pleasure I have to find once again the human and professional values of my team, and the possibility to use so many talents and so much competence. So at the same time we had to solve the present, every minute of the present, and also plan for the future. Before I listen to Labriola, I would like to ask him a brief question. Fernando would like to know if FCA will guarantee cheaper vehicles or cheaper insurance for the vehicles. Well, he has to talk to insurance companies. Well, surely the safety is going to improve, and insurance companies will certainly consider that in their prices. Also, it will allow for partnerships, and insurance companies can also be included in the partnerships, and this will generate even greater competence. As Fernando said, well, the limit is the limit to imagination. Thank you for the question. Labriola, we are moving towards the end of our chat. I wish we had time to listen to you on the building of the future after this crisis, and also I would like to hear what you noticed are the main tools and abilities to lead in the future that is still a little foggy. Well, I paid attention to what Antonio said about insurance in the future. This is part of our strategy to make information available, because everything based on statistics can be enriched with further information. In Italy, we have companies that put a black box in the car, and they use a SIM, and this makes the insurance cheaper somehow. But in answer to your second question, what do we learn from this situation? In our company, we have internal research representing 85 to 87%. As Antonio said, it is very important to understand the importance of our team. They are the ones responsible for bringing in results. And so we have the responsibility to constantly share with our team information and decisions. Every 3 months, I have a meeting with 400 executives, telling them about the performance of the company, what's going well, what is not, and forcing them all to detail information. We have to have a team, and everyone has to understand clearly how we are playing, what is the scheme, what works and what doesn't. The COVID learning was that we have to understand, all of us, that we need to balance private life and professional life better. All the decisions we're making as to whether our workers come back to the office or not, we are negotiating that with them. We're not forcing anyone. Some people prefer to work at home and we allow them, and other people prefer to come to the office. We let them choose, because the idea is to have them happier, more satisfied with their relationship with the company, and they see the company as a family as well. In the future, surely we will have a different mix in the time you spend in the company and the time you spend at home. Everyone understands how important spare time is. For instance, we have people who take an hour and a half to get to the office and an hour and a half to go back home. They work 8 hours plus 3, that's 11. If you eliminate 11 from 24, you have 13. And you eliminate 10 to sleep, you're left with 3 hours. So if we have this connectivity, people will be able to spend more time in their own private lives, and in that case their delivery at work will be much better. I like the idea of 10 hours to sleep. I think I will use that this weekend. Filosa, I thank you very much for your time and for having accepted to be here with us. Labriola, it was a pleasure to meet you. Thank you very much for being with us. Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone. Have a nice weekend. Well, we shall continue then with our program after this first chat that was so interesting. We're going to talk more specifically about leadership. The topic of the next chat is the challenge of leaders facing transformation. And for that, our guests are Patrice Lucas from PSA Latin America and Marcos Cagliari, CEO of Ipsos. Good morning, good morning. It's a pleasure to have you here. And I would like to start from the beginning, hearing from each one of you what were the challenges the pandemic presented to your companies. I would like to hear from Ipsos and from PSA Latin America, beginning with Marcos. Good morning, all. It's a pleasure to talk about this topic because it's so relevant and delicate at the same time. We had to face 3 phases. Well, not just Ipsos, but our clients are the largest companies in the country. And the first moment was one of reorganization and survival. And we saw mostly in the companies that work with us much dedication of time and resources to adapt to this unforeseen situation. There was a reduction in working hours. There were, well, health was very important, not just the financial health of the company, but also the health of our workers. Well, after we took care of our employees, we had to adapt. I believe the adaptation phase is concluded, and we must now foresee what changes will come. The first change will be a need for growth. All the companies we talk to say they see a need to grow next year. The client centricity in our company was never as important as it is now. We have to think of the social role of the company as well. Externally and internally, we have to review the processes of the company in order to acquire this relevance. We will have to have a constant growth. And I would also like to mention the management of talent. Talent management has changed a lot. We can see here how difficult it is to have integrated talent, allowing for changes in processes and cultures, and all of that is important because people is spread out in their own homes, and people are insecure concerning their jobs. So a new look needs to be implemented. We have already started to implement that. However, the management of talent needs to be more technical, more careful, and we have to take lots of care with our employees. Well, Patrice, what do you think of this subject? Good morning, all. It's a pleasure to be with you. Well, we had lots of challenges that arrived overnight. My first concern was to guarantee and protect our collaborators, our employees, and protect our company. And so the first decisions we made were we shut production and we shut the administrative areas, and we sent everyone to work at home. And this was a good decision because our collaborators, our personnel, is the main asset we have. But then immediately after that, we had to protect the company. In other words, we have to make good decisions. We had to take a step back and analyze how we could move on in this situation. No one could foresee, no one could imagine the market was going to collapse. So the first challenge was to protect our employees, to protect our companies. And so we had a team we implemented 3 war rooms because it was a war spirit. So we had 1 war room for protection, of the health of our employees. We had to have a protocol against COVID in all of our areas. This was in the first war room. We had a second war room that had to do with business continuity, to see how we could adapt production to a slower pace. And in the third war room, we learned a lot. We had the possibility to analyze how to simplify processes and how to eliminate steps that were not responsible for added value. So we had to protect and how we could slow down the cash. Well, the issue of communication was very important, because from one day to the next, we were working in front of our employees, and then after the following day, there was no such contact, and we had to promote a good contact nevertheless. So, and we also had to get everyone to understand that there was a leader, there were clear actions, there was a plan, and that we were going to protect them and our company. So there was a need to have more frequent contact and communication with all of them. Patrice, you mentioned the challenge of communication. No doubt it must have been considerable. I would like you to tell us a little more about what things are like today. Marcos mentioned the issue of home office. And so at what level did the company start working again in the offices, approaching the old normal, so to speak? And also production. You had halted production. Have you started producing again? These are very important points. On production, we went back to producing after being shut for 3 months. So we started to produce again in July, and we've been producing since. And what we see is that after the pandemic, depending on the different countries, we see a reboot in the market. Lots of people could not buy anything for a while, and consumers have this urge to buy things. And vehicles can be considered by many people as being much safer for transportation. So there was a strong reboot in the market, and now production is working at a high level, and we're paying attention, because the worst topic for an OEM is to have too much inventory. An inventory is like a cancer, and it represents a working capital problem. So we are working carefully, analyzing all the markets and our factories. In our factories, we have all the workers directly involved in production. And the others are working in different manners. We opened our administrative center last week, and we have a project we call the New Era, where we concentrate everything we learned during the pandemic. And we want to talk in this program and this project about a new world, the world before the pandemic and the world during the pandemic. And by discussing all that, we will then enter a new world where we will use the best of both worlds we had before. And this will be the topic of our meetings, our conversations. And we have two levels of activity. There are activities that are operational. They are mostly control, monitoring, and execution of action plans. And here we decided that for that, we don't need to be in the office. We can continue like we did during the pandemic and the lockdown. We can do it at home. And then there is exploration, which are activities to create initiatives and work in creative work in the long run. And this requires discussions to define plans. And for that, we decided we need to be in the same place. So there is operation and exploration. Our goal is to work at the office like 2 days a week, and the other days will be remote. This is one of the things we learned from the pandemic. Well, thank you very much. And more flexible offices seem to be a trend, partly at home and partly in the office. So I now ask Marcos, and I now talk to the audience. I am addressing questions to our guest speakers, but I would like you all to send in your questions. Marcos, I would like you to tell us about home office and solutions. How can you have it all in balance? How can you bring people to be closer to you if they are in home office? And how can you go about solitude and sadness that people may feel when they are isolated? What happened was not just home office. Home office is more common, but we had this isolation, and this brought in emotional burdens that children couldn't go to school, they cannot still. It is more complicated than merely a home office work. The main thing we have to guarantee is the mental health of our personnel. There are studies already on the anxiety and difficulty to sleep. So the pandemic was more complicated than merely home office. The moment the pandemic slows down and we learn to deal with it better, what we hear around is the following. Home office was very well implemented. We managed to have people working a few hours after isolation was established. People were working from home already. But we have to have a technical view on all of this. Uh, was there a gain in productivity? What was the productivity? And I believe there were losses, perhaps, because it's more difficult to convey a corporate culture remotely. It is more difficult to understand this culture if you're not experiencing it at the office, for instance. We have to be careful about that. We are also living through a period of absolute anxiety, and this is massive. It happens in every company, and the interval between communications is shorter, much shorter, and this brings in familiarity with what's happening. It seemed an interesting decision for the moment. And the third point I mentioned is innovation, that has a lot to do with the idea of the exchange of ideas, which is never forbidden, of course. But there are processes that can be hampered by the fact that people are working remotely. I'm just mentioning a few aspects that will require special attention. And the way you assess production will have to change. You will have to monitor everything more technically. What are my KPIs? What is the result, etc. I think this new look is not yet implemented, so we have a long way to cover. There is a tendency for remote work, but I think we shall refine the way we work with these new processes and results. Thirdly, I would like to talk about solidarity. There was a whole network of solidarity. And in the US, there was the Black Lives Matter and so on. In this process, including with remote work, companies will have to implement social responsibility programs. This becomes fundamental for us as well. Patrice, how do you feel these challenges at PSA? And how was the culture of the company affected? Something important Marco said is the following. Integration is a huge challenge. When we are distant, how can we integrate new people, for instance? We admitted new people, and they had just started working with us when the pandemic started. And I want to give everyone a positive message. I am optimistic about a human being's capacity to adapt. Because even people who when I see these people who had only worked 5 hours for us at the office, and they are now working remotely, and they are delivering a great production. So I was amazed and very pleased this is a positive message. Sometimes this adaptation happens due to much pressure, but human beings adapt. And this is the main thing, in my opinion. Now, concerning how to manage all this, in my opinion, we learned a lot about many topics in our companies. And just to summarize, I say that for us to have good communication, good engagement from everyone, first of all, we have to simplify, because complicated processes do not survive once we adopt telework. The second topic is to have objectives and a clear direction in order not to have misunderstandings in the communication, and in order to really focus what is essential. And the last one is to communicate. To communicate gives meaning to things, explain, and here comes the role of the leader, a leader who has to care, and he has to listen, and he has to detect what the next steps should be. And a leader who decides, because people feel insecure, and so they have to feel that there is a managing team that are making the right decisions for us to move forward. So from the very first day, I told my team that we are going to come out of this situation a lot stronger. Like always, whenever we go through troubled times, when we resurface, we are much stronger. And this is happening right now. Patrice, I remembered here that we carried out a study, as you said. We did a study during the pandemic called the pandemic in the automotive sector, work and sentiment. This study shows that people who work in our industry are suffering a lot with the lack of predictability. They feel more or less neglected, the fear they have to lose their jobs, since we don't know where we are heading, really. And the pandemic is the backdrop to all that. And this is why I mentioned that long-term view is important for everyone, not just for the leadership. And I know you have an important merge with FCA, so I would like you please to talk about it. What is it like to prepare the ground for that, and what should be the reflex of the arrival of Stellantis in Brazil? This is a very important topic, Stellantis and the merge. This is a fundamental for us in our car business. And this is the beginning of a human adventure and an industrial adventure to be more efficient. But right today I cannot go into details because we have a whole process. And we are at a point between signing and closing, and then the merge is going to become official in the next quarter, the first quarter of 21. I cannot talk much about it. In the future we shall have very clear communications on the topic. We're all very excited to go into this new phase. It's going to be a very important opportunity for all collaborators at Fiat and at PSA. We're going to be a new family, and it's going to be a great adventure. We are looking forward to that. Well, lots of news are in the horizon, right, Patrice? Another brief question related to the future. You announced you are considering bringing other brands of the PSA group to Brazil. I would like to know what these plans are like. What is the future you conceive for these products here? To be straightforward, in we already have two brands, and with Stellantis we're going to have more brands. For the time being, I cannot say anything about it. Now, concerning the future and the long term, what is important is always to have a vision. And as a company, we have a very clear vision. We have a strategic plan. It's called Custo Base, which is our vision. And it is like a guideline for people in our company. When things are not very clear, this gives you something to follow. It's very important. So, to me, the world is increasingly chaotic, and my message to all my teams is the following: we have to learn to live in this chaotic world. And this is why we have three important values in the group, which are agility, because from one day to the next we may face a situation and we have to adapt. The second item is collective work, because the best result comes from the strength of collective world. And the third aspect is efficiency, because efficiency is a protection for the future, protection for our profitability. And the best way to preserve and guarantee the future is having short-term results. If a company doesn't have short-term results, it won't sell anything in the future. So, number one, the future is chaotic, but we are organizing in order to be able to deliver the new vision. I would now like to have your analysis on the view on the future. Please tell us, from your position of the head of a survey, a research institution here in Brazil, what do you think we should focus on? Well, I noticed during the pandemic that we had a moment of adaptation, and now we move on to activity. Well, our clients in the second half of this year came back to us with 1 million questions. Everything was different. They were totally different from what we knew them before. We are trying to adapt to answer their questions, but we have this considerable demand in these new questions. The first factor is the awareness most brands generated, that they don't really understand what's going on. You have to understand the routine of people, and we see some very interesting signs for the future. In the automotive industry specifically, we see signs that are conflicting. The companies will have to consider in their plans some important things. First of all, the streamlining of expenses. This is here to stay. There will be a process of reassessing expenses, such as buying a car, buying a house. Brazilian families are far more mindful of their expenses nowadays, and this will affect the car market directly. Another factor altering the behavior of people and families is the issue of the pandemic itself, because it's not over yet. It's far from over. It's increasing, in fact, in some countries. So this is a concern. People worry about public transport and they consider that a car, a private car, would be a solution for this situation. We have to take that into account. There is also social responsibility. There are several studies showing that decisions made on social responsibility are very important. And in the car industry, this goes through consumption, expenses, diversification. There are some trends that were in the market already before, but they have become more important as decision factors. Also, in urban centers, the tendency to concentrate people generates urban problems that are extremely expensive. Transport becomes very expensive. This problem will be reduced because people may now live in houses away from the downtown area, because they will have to go to the office only twice a week, for instance. This is already manifesting itself in São Paulo. You also don't need a car for just very short trips. You need perhaps a car for a longer trip to the office twice a week. And this will determine what car you will choose. All of this has an importance on the choice of people. The purchasing decision and the purchasing activity of families is very important. And the role and the work of brands and companies will have to focus individuals more than groups. So the marketing job is far more complex. This is why we insist so much on client centricity and concentrating more on the clients individually. We have to really understand people, because this is the only way for my brand to remain important and will continue to participate in the expenses made by those clients. Patrice, I would like to know from you, what are the trends and main factors you are considering when you plan for the future? In what direction are you looking as PSA? Well, our activity plans follow a strategic vision trying to understand where the businesses go and where and what the behavior of clients is like. We see all that as a trend with data to define what the next vehicle should be like and how that affects the expectations of clients. We know, however, that in the automotive sector there is a full revolution going on. We still don't see all that in Mercosur, but especially in Europe, energy is very important. Fuel, especially in Europe and in Asia, everyone is paying lots of attention to how a car will be fueled, if it will use electricity or ethanol, or we also have a change in the client's behavior. The new generation doesn't have the same relationship with vehicles as my generation had. We have to manufacture and sell cars, but we also have to offer services. This is important. Another fundamental topic is everything having to do with technology. There is a lot more technology on board now, and cars need to be an object that communicates with the rest of the world. And this is only going to increase because cars will one day be driverless. So much they communicate. So all of this changes and affects the behavior of people vis-a-vis their cars. And so all of this will happen in 2025, 28, 35. The date itself is not all that important. The main importance is in the direction, the trend. And this is what we have in our plans to prepare and transform our business. Patrice, I would like to ask you two questions coming from our audience. Carlos Augusto mentions the flow in this issue, that the flow of materials is key for the automotive chain. And he wants to know what inventories are like, and at the same time the guarantee of materials and supplies. And there is a question concerning e-commerce that became so much stronger during the pandemic. Could you address these 2 points? Yes, concerning the flow, this is a topic. This is a basic aspect for us. When we decided to stop production for 3 months, we now have a very low inventory, and this allows us to make a good deal. We are now working with the leanest inventory possible. This is what we call lean management, and we implemented that in all of our plants already 20 years ago. In my opinion, we're now entering something very important, which is we are going to eliminate the flow and we will try to work with the lowest number of vehicles in the production line without harming our clients who want to have one vehicle or another. So we follow very closely what we call the car flow management. Now, concerning your other questions about the e-commerce, thank you for the question. This is going to become increasingly important, and we will have to work with our distribution network because we will have to face a revolution together, a whole transformation, because clients will increasingly want to buy things using the internet. So we already have these possibilities. In Brazil, with Peugeot or Citroën, you can buy them using the internet, and we shall continue to give all the data, a good quote, the possibility to buy a second-hand car, the possibility to finance the vehicle. Yes, this channel is a social trend, and we will have to adapt together with our partners in the dealers chain. Thank you very much. We're coming to the end of our meeting. I would like to ask you both one question. How is it people making decisions? Well, this is, it's very important to hear from leaders. And we have a study, in fact, that we carried out. It's called Leadership in the Automotive Industry. And the study pointed out the issue of a very extreme focus on short term and a few other tendencies. In your opinion, what do you think is left behind, beginning with Marcos, left behind after the trauma of the pandemic? Well, I am interested in reading this survey you mentioned. Well, first of all, I think what is left behind is the self-analysis, realizing that we are not infallible. And this is the first sign for us to have better results. The short-term disease that we see everywhere, well, the ecosystem gives us the sign that this is not the right way to go. In leadership, there will be some time before equality, but it has to happen, not only because of the company's social role, and it is important for the workforce to identify with the company. Concerning the focus on short term, I think it has to be adapted, and it may change every week. Contacts became more frequent, as I said before, and there are things we have to take care with. We have to align with the expectations of our head office and medium and long-term decisions have to be uh, based on trends. But in the short term, we have decisions to make using more frequent contacts. We cannot forget long term, even though we are very much focusing on short term. We have seen companies ignoring the long term with the notion that it is unpredictable. But on the contrary, all companies have to concentrate on short term, but they must not forget medium and long term, because all companies will come out of the crisis stronger than before, and this is what's happening to our company, for instance. Thank you, Marcos. Patrice, please share your point of view with us. Unfortunately, this situation is a reality. We don't accept this because we believe diversity is an asset for our company. Our clients are also diverse, so diversity is fundamental. We have action plans. We already have results in several issues, and we are working on them, and no doubt if we continue along this course, we will be stronger, more relevant. And once again, one of the important values in our group is teamwork with lots of diversity, and therefore there is more competence and so on in the whole group together. It's good to know, Patrice. This is good news. Marcos, Patrice, it was a huge pleasure to have these minutes of exchange with you. Thank you very much for the time you spent with us, and also for making yourselves available to talk to us and to our audience. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you all, and congratulations for your event. Thank you very much. We move on in our program. We have one last chat in ABX 20, last chat in the Friday morning. We have a guest that is somewhat unexpected, Paulo Camargo. He is the CEO of the Brazilian division of McDonald's. How are you, Paulo? Everything is fine. How about you? Thank you very much. Everything is okay, and thank you for being with us. I was wondering if I was invited because it's lunchtime. Yes. Well, all this conversation, McDonald's, at lunchtime, I think people will know where to go. Well, first of all, thank you very much for having invited me. I am very flattered by this invitation, and I am sure there will be an exchange of opinions. Well, Paulo, I know you prepared something to say to us, so feel free. And those of you watching, ABX20. Send your questions for us to ask Paolo and how his sector can be closer to mobility. Well, I will introduce myself. I am Paulo Camargo, married, two children, and I am the CEO of the Golden Arches, or McDonald's, or MEC, as it's called in Brazil. I was asked to talk about how McDonald's invests in innovation to go through such a challenging moment as we have now. In other words, what is the role of a leader in such complex times? In 2020, that is. And for that, we will talk about McDonald's, which is big, and it caters to 2 million people every day. A little less now, but it will go back to normal afterwards. And to get to our size, you have to put together the second in the rank, the third in the rank, fourth and fifth, all of them put together to get to our size. And what is the business like? It's going well. We are gaining market share. We are growing constantly. And that for several quarters now. And I have to tell you this story because this was not always the same. We've been in Brazil for over 40 years, but a few years ago we were being attacked from every side. A strong growth of international chains and also gourmet hamburger places. They call me the president of McDonald's, and I had to lead the process. We carried out a very deep survey, a study to redefine the business in Brazil. This required investing time and money in order to know well our strong and weak points, to attack the weak points and to enhance the strong points. We did a few things. What draws most attention is the redefinition of McFries. Oh yes, a McFries come as a combo, and this happened for 40 years. We became more authentic during this period. Because I told our employees to speak freely to the customers, not a standard little speech. So the mantra I created was to destructure, to potentiate. I like this mantra very much. The other one I like is the following: you are paid to err, to go wrong, to make mistakes. And the first time I said that, they thought I was going mad. But then I complimented. I said, please be right more than make mistakes. So innovation will only come if you create a culture accepting that mistakes are part of innovation, or else you don't grow anything. At that time, we realized the brand was very strong, but it was just in inertia. And we ran a risk because the new generation no longer knew that little song talking about the recipe of Big Mac. So we want to innovate, but we don't want to lose the strong things we've had for a long time. To summarize it all to you, we have to modernize the client's experience using digitalization, because clients have told us in surveys that they want to control their experience. They want to decide how to pay and where to eat and so on. All of this aiming at improving the customer's experience. We have 50,000 employees in Brazil, and for that we need to improve efficiency. And I would say to you that 2019 was the crowning of this strategy. We were big already, but we became bigger than the other players. We gained share, and I think this is the right way to go. Because if we say it got better and better and better, you don't have to believe me. I have to mention other KPIs. So I'll mention 3 KPIs to you. EBITDA grew up 390 basis points in 3 years, which is big. The participation or the engagement of people is absenteeism and turnover. Our absenteeism went down 50% up until 2019. Finally, if you have more people engaged, you could have more satisfied clients. The assessment of the MAC experience improved 23% points. So 73% of our clients declare themselves super satisfied with the experience of coming to McDonald's. And then we were hit by a meteor, the pandemic. One of our strong points is that more than half our restaurants are open to the roads. The stores that are in shopping centers suffered more because they had to close down. The drive-throughs that have to do with your industry, your sector, they had an increase of 50% in their results, and we needed a platform of very strict processes for food safety and client safety and so on. The other good news are that we had to face everything like you, the home office and so on. But then at the end of April, we had already, the main thing was we maintained the jobs. Only people who wanted to leave us left us. We maintained employees, and I don't know if you read about it, but we announced the creation of 3 job vacancies in the coming weeks. Golden Arches operates in 20 countries in Latin America, and Brazil is the main one. And we have only just announced the EBITDA a double-digit EBITDA for the third quarter. During the pandemic, we had a social presence. We shared with, we have a hamburger university here, and so we taught other companies the best practices in terms of care and hygiene, etc. Thousands of other companies participated in these courses. We also have Mac Thank You. This is one way to know or to recognize the workers in essential areas such as nurses and doctors and cleaners and so on. And we donated lots of food as well to deprived people. We want to be a democratic brand, very close to our clients and very close to our employees. At some point, we decided to close our halls, the stores. We gave priority to the safety of our personnel and our clients, and we continued to work in the drive-through modality only. I am open to questions in case you have any. Well, you mentioned the challenge of controlling the curve of new cases, right? Of infected people. It sounds like it was 5 years ago, but it was very close. Well, maybe one of the main things, one of the main assets McDonald's has is this very good relationship with consumers, your very positive image, and people have like affection for your brand, and you see consumers changing. You mentioned challenges similar to what we see in the automotive sector because younger people don't want to have cars. The interest they have for cars is not the same, and there is no loyalty to brands. So please tell us what you think is relevant for a brand in 2020, in a pandemic year, for a brand to continue close to consumers. What do you think is essential? Well, no doubt the main function of executives, more than profit in that quarter. It is important, but less important than guaranteeing the continuity of the company. And for you to do that, we have to have this permanent hearing channel with our consumers because we want to understand the needs and demands in our customers. We are great lovers of surveys. We carry out more than 1 million surveys per year, and we react to what we find in these surveys. They all want innovation, but innovation for the sake of innovation is useless. We need to do things useful. Also, there is a connection of trust, as you said, and trust is something you conquer. You started to listen to me. You don't know if you trust me because you don't know me. You see, but you cannot buy trust. Even if I gave you Big Macs to everyone, well, I normally say that before saying a Big Mac business. We are a people business. 50,000 employee catering to 50 million people in our. But this wouldn't be possible unless our employees who are on the field made it happen. But we have to have the internal process first to create authenticity in order to guarantee this process of trust. It's a long and constant process involving a human capital, really. Thank you, Paulo. And you said you still don't know if people trust you or not, but I think you have already conquered a good many of our spectators. They are saying you would be an excellent CEO in the automotive sector. Very interesting if you step out of the food business. I would like you to tell us a little about your proximity to mobility and all the digitalization that is foreseen for this sector. Well, this week a few mergers have been announced and partnerships. Tell us about what you think about this unusual ecosystem. Well, you mentioned innovation. Innovation for the sake of innovation will not make sense. But one of the processes we understood is that there is a redesign of what retail means. Retail used to think it was location, location, location. If you have a good location, you are successful. But this has changed. Mobility is very important. And proximity, besides FCA and other brands, I could tell you about this, the partnership we have with Waze, because Waze could tell where to find the McDonald's, but there would be another app called Mac without a line, a waiting line, a queue. You could order your Mac sandwich. We are a little behind in our schedule to make it work because the pandemic, in a way, caused this delay. But this will soon be on the dashboard of clients. Let's see what the new questions are. But if not, I would like to talk about innovation. Well, I have a question here concerning the relationship with clients, because you feel the pulse of a final consumer. And what are the challenges to offer greater satisfaction to clients after this whole pandemic? What do you think changed? And what could be useful to many people who have to make their clients happy? I will use again the same word, innovation, constant innovation. Create a culture in the organization. But you give me the chance to talk about a Mac meal. McDonald's Brazil has more than 1,000 restaurants. We continue to open more. But I wanted to tell you the story of McDonald's number 1,000. We had 499 restaurants in 40 years. And there seemed to be no need for any more. No, then we did the Mac meal with with an exclusive architecture, exclusive menu, and so on. For months, it was working 24 hours a day. And besides the municipal market in Brazil, in Sao Paulo, and other points of interest that people visit in Sao Paulo, they also visit our store in Avenida Paulista. If you are a leader in your sector, don't look back. It doesn't matter if your competitor is trying to copy you, to provoke you. It happens a lot to my brand. But all he has to do is to look forward and see you in front. Keep your focus on what really matters. What really matters is Mr. Customer. They are our bosses. And allow competitors to provoke you with, but you have Mac without a Q, and there are so many things we have to offer in our brand. This is what you have to focus on. Well, Paulo, I think time has come for us to talk about innovation a little more. We're coming to the final minutes in our meeting, and one question I would like to ask you is, how can you lead transformation at such uncertain times? This is a challenge for the car industry as well. Leaders have to go through technological disruption, change in consumers, and everything caused by the pandemic. So share a little, please, what you think about this challenge. Well, to begin with, we have to act quickly, but to act correctly, it's always important to listen. It's the best recipe. You listen to the desires of your customers and of your employees. You have to understand all of these demands. People who are inside the organization, and they are key in innovation because organizations don't change for themselves. They have to be changed by people because a restaurant without people is nothing, right? But I will give you a practical example. We had, in this year of pandemic, we had to make very complex decisions. I mentioned closing our halls, our salons, at the beginning of the pandemic. And it was tough because as of the 23rd, there would be no revenue anymore. Well, I was convinced that we had to do that for the benefit of the employees and for the benefit of the company. I sometimes even cried thinking about it because the health of our employees and our clients is always our main, our top concern. But it is, as you said, the digital presence, delivery, drive-ins, all of this is important. It's not technology for technology. Do you know Dona Delmira? She's my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law is hiding in her own apartment since the beginning of the pandemic. And she's asking 3 or 4 deliveries per week. She had never used an app to ask for a delivery. But you see, well, my children make 4 or 5 orders on the cell phone every week. And in my opinion, this has helped us maximize the use of certain resources as well. Well, thank you very much, Paolo. We came to the end of our chat. I thank you very much for your participation. It was highly inspiring for a segment that is not all that close to yours, but is increasingly connected to you. Thank you very much. We're in it together, he says. I am Mac protected. Very well. So this here goes a tip for people to have lunch. Next, we shall move on to our closing. I am very sad ABX is coming to an end. We were connected with you for a whole week, exchanging ideas, building a vision of the future for the automotive industry and mobility. I thank you immensely for being here with us, for exchanging ideas. I know Paula has thanked you already at the beginning, but I would like to thank lots of people as well. Marcos, the studio team, Sueli, Grace Ribeiro, thank you all. I would like to give the floor to Paula. She will close our meeting for us. Thank you, Giovanna. It was a great pleasure to be here every morning in these 5 days. It was really a fantastic experience with lots of insights and lots of content. I am sure whoever was with us along these days will come away extremely inspired by this event that we prepared so tenderly to you. Well, after this closing, we will have a special live presentation. I hope you will enjoy this sound. This is how we intend to celebrate the success of ABX this year. More than 300 people participated in the master classes. Master classes were smaller meetings with very limited number of participants, but there was content generated by many leaders. On Tuesday, we spoke about the new ecosystem in the automotive sector. On Wednesday, we spoke about the transportation of the future. And this afternoon, we have a great masterclass with more than 45 presidents and CEOs will participate. And you can have access to all that, and you know how? By subscribing to the premium area. We prepared documents that you can have access to in the premium area. ABX is going to stay on the air until the end of the year. All the lives you could not see, all the master classes, all the takeaways, it's videos and podcasts our team prepared. So there's lots of very interesting content. All of that to inspire you on the new mobility in the new society, the reinvention of mobility for the new society. In our platform, besides all this content, you also find news from our sponsors. We had some tens of brands that supported us to make this ABX 20 possible. And we have messages from these brands in our site. I wanted to thank lots of people because ABX is not done by one person. It's lots of people that I ought to thank before we go into our live to commemorate. I thank our sponsors, the great brands that had faith in our meeting, and our partners. Who are they? 4 consulting officers that helped us produce the content, Mandala and several others. Thank you very much, all of you. And Tenobe Startup, they were a great partner. They brought here an avant-premiere to share with you the 10 top startups in ranking. Lots of people managed to contact the startups. And the mobility and the automotive industry managed to connect with the 200 startups. So if you follow the live transmissions, you will notice we had this sensitivity. We had sign language translation, and this has allowed us to be understood by more people. This is very important, accessibility, and whenever you have your own meetings, I recommend that you contact these people as well. Well, 18,000 people visited our platform, consuming more than 45,000 pages and numbers. It was a record. It was incredible, and so my sincere thanks go to our audience, to all of you who came to the lives, who participated in the master classes as well, and who were with us throughout this journey. Enjoy the content. It's going to stay online until the end of December. If you liked it, keep sharing. Continue to use the ABX20 hashtag so we can improve it for next year. It was a really special journey. And first of all, I personally have to thank my husband and my son, who were very patient with me throughout this journey that was so intense for months. My many thanks. My father and mother also supported me always. AB is celebrating 25 years, and they were responsible for creating this company. And I love this company, and I love my father and mother. My huge thanks to all the team in automotive business. You were all incredible. Karina, Giovanna, Pedro, Marcos, Sueli, Grace, Luis, Guy, Sandra. You were all fantastic. And my many thanks, because you made a huge difference in this incredible initiative. And of course, we also send thanks to the families of these professionals. You all deserve special thanks as well. And as I said, we're celebrating 25 years this year. It was quite a journey. Lots of things happened along these 25 years, and I have the pleasure to announce that we have a very special project for 2021. It's called What's Next. You will have every information on this new project as of next week. It's going to be a beautiful project, full with content and inspiring, like everything we do. And this will get you in the industry to be really a player in this transformation that the automotive sector is going through. This project is going to be very special, very incredible. It's going to be called What's Next. And in 25 years, we had more than 200 events. They had an impact on thousands of people. We sent out more than 4,000 letters. The magazine was launched in 2009. We have lots of experience to share with you, and I hope to meet you again next year in ABX 2021. 2021, and I hope that this will be done presently, and we will be able to celebrate the closing of this journey with much joy, much willingness, and I hope you found all that in our journey here at ABX 20. Thank you very much, especially I hope you will have made lots of business thanks to the connections you made here. Thank you very much for being with us, and the time has come for us to celebrate. And I invite you all to our special musical live with a fantastic artist. I hope you will like him, and I hope to find you next year in the next edition of ABX 2020. See you all next year.
Driverless cars, connected services, new sharing concepts. The automotive industry is in the midst of change. The Internet of Things is opening up a whole new world of possibilities that will push the boundaries of mobility. But what will the future really look like on the roads? One thing is for certain. New technologies are going to revolutionize today's mobility. They will turn the journey into a digitally enhanced experience and connect the vehicle to its surroundings. With Bosch, connected mobility is becoming a reality, more efficient, safer, and more comfortable and convenient.
Veículos. Soluções completas, ferramentas modernas, alta tecnologia. Reconhecimento facial, mais segurança e agilidade na compra e venda de veículos. Chat na plataforma digital. Comunicação mais fácil entre a concessionária e nosso time. Open Banking. União entre plataformas e parceiros. Inteligência artificial. Essencial na captura e gestão de leads. Soluções de mobilidade. Com a Connect Car, seu cliente vai mais longe. Olhamos para o futuro. Queremos sempre mais. Vamos juntos? Itaú Veículos. Nosso negócio é viabilizar o seu.
Mounting exterior automotive parts can be a slow process that requires the use of a noxious chemical adhesion promoter. However, our Tessa ACX primerless line of high-performance double-sided acrylic foam tapes eliminates the need for primers. These tapes quickly achieve a high level of strength and provide the thermal expansion characteristics needed when mounting side moldings, decorative trims, emblems, and other exterior attachment parts. To learn more about the benefits and cost savings of using our Tessa ACX Plus primerless line on difficult-to-bond substrates such as polypropylene EPDM, TPO, and TPE, visit tessatape.com.
Saudades de você debaixo do meu cobertor, de te arrancar suspiros, fazer amor. Tô com saudade de você na varanda em noite quente, no arrepio frio que dá na gente o quinto desejo. Guardo na boca o gosto de um beijo. Eu sinto a falta de você, me sinto só. E aí, será que você volta? Tudo à minha volta é triste. E aí, o amor pode acontecer de novo pra você, palpite. Tô com saudade de você, do nosso banho de chuva, o calor da tua pele, da língua tua. Tô com saudade de você, censurando meu vestido, das juras de amor ao pé do ouvido, que do desejo. Guardo na boca o gosto de um beijo. Eu sinto a falta de você, me sinto só. E aí, será que você volta? Tudo à minha volta é triste. E aí, o amor pode acontecer você, palpite. E aí, será que você volta? Tudo à minha volta é triste. E aí, o amor pode acontecer de novo pra você, palpite. E aí, será que você volta? Tudo à minha volta é triste. E aí, o amor pode acontecer de novo pra você, palpite. Eu não estou interessado em uma teoria, em nenhuma fantasia, nem em algo mais, nem tinta pro meu rosto, ou melodia pra acompanhar vocês nos sonhos matinais. Eu não estou interessado em uma teoria, nessas coisas do Oriente, romances astrais. A minha alucinação é suportar o dia a dia, e meu delírio é experiência com coisas reais. Um preto pobre, um estudante, uma mulher sozinha, jeans e motocicletas, pessoas cinzas normais, garotas do meia-noite, revólver, cheira a cachorro, os humilhados do parque com os seus jornais. Carneiro, mesa, trabalho meu corpo, me cai do oitavo andar, e a solidão das pessoas dessas capitais, a violência na noite, o movimento do tráfego. Um rapaz delicado e alegre que canta, requebra, é demais. Travos, espinhos no rosto, rock, hot dog, plate com baby. 12 jovens coloridos e 2 policiais, cumprindo seu duro dever e defendendo seu amor e nossa vida. Cumprindo seu duro dever e defendendo seu amor e nossa vida. Mas eu não estou interessado em uma teoria, em nenhuma fantasia, nem algo mais. Nem tinta pro meu rosto, no baú, melodia pra acompanhar vocês nos sonhos matinais. Eu não estou interessado em uma teoria, nessas coisas do Oriente, romances astrais. Um profeta do terror que a laranja mecânica anuncia. Amar e mudar as coisas me interessa mais. Um preto pálido, um estudante, uma mulher sozinha, jeans e motocicletas, pessoas cinzas, novo mais. Garotas no meio da noite, revólver, cheira a cachorro, os humilhados do parque com o seu jornal. Carneiro, dinheiro, mesa, trabalho meu corpo, ficar do oitavo andar. E a solidão das pessoas dessas capitais. A violência na noite, o movimento do tráfego. Um rapaz delicado e alegre que canta, que quebra, é demais. Travos, espinhas no rosto, rock, hot dog, plain good baby. 12 jovens coloridos, 2 policiais, cumprindo seu duro dever e defendendo seu amor. E nossa vida, cumprindo seu duro dever e defendendo seu amor. E nossa vida. Mas eu não estou interessado em nenhuma teoria, em nenhuma fantasia, nem em algo mais. Como profeta do terror, que a laranja mecânica anuncia, amar e mudar as coisas me interessa mais. Eu não estou interessado em nenhuma teoria, nessas coisas do Oriente, romances astrais. Como profeta do terror, que a laranja mecânica anuncia, amar e mudar as coisas me interessa mais. Amar e mudar as coisas, amar e mudar as coisas me interessa mais. Nosso querido Belchior. Vamos fazer uma canção do Zé Cabaleiro? Eu não sei dizer o que quer dizer, o que vou dizer. Eu amo você, mas não sei o que isso quer dizer. Eu não sei porquê eu teimo em dizer que amo você. Se eu não sei dizer o que quer dizer, o que vou dizer. E se eu digo pare, você não repare no que possa parecer. E se eu digo siga, o que quer que eu diga, você não vai entender. Mas se eu digo venha, você traz a lenha pro meu fogo acender. E se eu digo venha, você traz a lenha pro meu fogo acender. traz a lenha pro meu fogo acender. E se eu digo venha, você traz a lenha pro meu fogo acender. Se eu digo venha, você traz a lenha pro meu fogo acender. E se eu digo venha, você traz a lenha pro meu fogo acender. Eu sei quem tá do outro lado não pode pedir, mas eu imagino que já tem alguém pedindo, então a gente vai tocar. Plantei um sítio no sertão de Piritiba, 2 pés de macaíba, caju, mangue e cajá. Peguei na enxada como pego catingueiro, fiz acero, botei fogo, vai ver como é que tá. Tem abacate, genevá, bananeira, milho verde, macaxeira, giz no Ceará. Cebola, coentro, angu, feijão de corda, 20 e pouco na engorda, até o gato no curral. Ô muita raça, fiz tudo aqui sozinho, nem um pé de passarinho veio a terra semear. Agora vê, compadre, a safadeza começou a malvadeza, todo bicho vem pra cá. Não planto capim, guiné, pra boiabana, rabo, eu tô virado no diabo, retado com você. Tá vendo tudo e fica aí parado com essa cara de viado que viu o catinguele sussurrando na sua vez perversidade. Pardal foi pra cidade, ser uma ameaça quase. Dona Raposa só fica na maldade, me faça caridade, se vire no pé, saco e trepado no pé da goiabeira, saringue na macaxeira, teta mandoá. Minhas galinhas não ficam mais paradas, que o galo de madrugada tem medo de cantar, que é num planto capim, guiné, pra boiabana, rabo, eu tô virado no diabo, retado com você. Tá vendo tudo e fica aí parado com essa cara de viado que viu catinguele, que é num planto capim, guiné, pra boiabana, rabo, eu tô virado no diabo, retado com você. Tá vendo tudo e fica aí parado com essa cara de viado que viu catinguele. Plantei um sítio no sertão de Piritiba, 2 pés de macaíba, caju, mangue e cajá. Peguei na enxada, pego catingueiro, fiz acero, botei fogo, vai ver como é que tá. Tem abacate, genipá, bananeira, milho verde, macaxeira, como diz no Ceará. Cebola, coentro, ando feijão de corda, 20 e pouco na engorda, até o gato não burrar. Oh, muita raça, visto daqui sozinho, nem o pé de passarinho veio a terra semear. Agora veja, compadre, a safadeza começou a malvadeza, todo bicho vem pra cá, num planto capim, guiné, pra boiabana, rabo, eu tô virado no diabo, retado com você. Tá vendo tudo e fica aí parado com essa cara de viado que viu catinguele, num planto capim, guiné, pra boiabana, rabo, eu tô virado no diabo, retado com você. Tá vendo tudo e fica aí parado criado e viu Catinguele. Sutuputu, tutuputu, tutuputu, tocando uma música do João Bosco. Saí com a patroa pra pescar num canal da mar, um ciris pra rechear, ciris que ela encheu de me avisar. Era o pato predileto do meu compadre Anescar. Levei arrastão e 3 puças, um de cabo, outros 2 de jogar. Exclusivo da véspera pra completar, cachaça e manjar, birita que dá garantia de ter maré cheia. Choveu o siri do patrão na manteiga azulão, o camaleão no tapa, a minha patroa espantou 3 sereias. Na falta nego cheio, um balde derramou, em pleno coletivo, o gato se encrespou. O velho trocador até gritou, não bebo mais. Siri passando em roleta, é mesmo pra mim é demais. De medo um motorista perdeu a direção, fez um golpe de vista, raspou num caminhão, pegou o pipoqueiro. O português da gerência quase voltou pra um mirim. Quiseram autuar nosso ciris, mas minha patroa subornou a guarnição. Então os canaduras mais gentis levaram a gente os ciris pra casa da abolição. E depois notando alguma atração, fui levar os ciris pra ferver. Dentro da lata de banho não dá de chia, pagava pra ver. Tranquilo, com Anescar colocando azeite. Foi um trabalho de cão, mas valeu o suor, croquete, popó, panqueque, siri, recheado, fritado e o cacete. O Anescar cheguei com uma alambique, me perguntou se eu era Mendonça ou Dinamite. Abri uma lourinha, trouxe um prato de croquete. O Anescar mordeu um, feito que come gilete. Achou minha patroa, Anescar, o que há? O Anescar gemeu, dieta de lascar. O médico mandou que eu coma tudo que pintar, até cerveja e cachaça, menos os frutos do mar. Tchum 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 pipa perapa tchum 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 cacaquim tchum pipa perapa tchum pipa perapa. Tchum tchum. Tchum tica pena tchum tica tica. Tchum que papera pão. Chupa tipo mamadia. Obrigada. Vou tocar uma música bonita dos domingos. Perdão. Estou de volta pro meu aconchego, trazendo na mala bastante saudade. Querem um sorriso sincero, um abraço para aliviar meu cansaço e toda essa minha vontade. Que bom poder estar contigo de novo, rosando teu corpo e beijando você. Pra mim, tu és a estrela mais linda, teus olhos me prendem, fascinam, a paz que eu gosto de ter. É duro ficar sem você, vez em quando parece que falta um pedaço de mim. Alegro na hora de regressar, parece que vou mergulhar na felicidade sem fim. Estou de volta pro meu aconchego, trazendo na mala bastante saudade. Querem sorriso sincero, um abraço para aliviar meu cansaço e toda essa minha vontade. Que bom poder estar contigo de novo, roçando teu corpo e beijando você. Pra mim, tu és a estrela mais linda, teus olhos me prendem, fascinam, a paz que eu gosto de ter. É duro ficar sem você, vez em quando parece que falta um pedaço de mim. Me alegro na hora de regressar, parece que vou mergulhar na felicidade sem fim. Eu creio que já estamos terminando. É correto, meninos? Sim? tocar as 2 últimas músicas. Vamos tocar. Obrigado a todos. Está sendo um prazer estar aqui. Quando penso em você, fecho os olhos de saudade. Tenho visto tanta coisa, menos a felicidade. Correm os meus dedos longos em versos tristes que invento. Nem aquilo a que me entrego já me traz contentamento. Pode ser até amanhã, cedo, claro como dia, mas nada do que me dizem me faz sentir alegria. Eu só queria ter no mato um gosto de framboesa, a correr entre os canteiros e esconder minha tristeza. Que eu ainda sou bem moço pra tanta tristeza. Deixamos de coisa, cuidamos da vida, pois se chega a morte ou coisa parecida, e nos arrasta moço sem ter visto a vida. É que eu ainda sou bem moço pra tanta tristeza. Deixemos de coisa, cuidemos da vida, pois se chega a morte ou coisa parecida, e nos arrasta moço sem ter visto a vida. Quando penso em você, fecho os olhos de saudade. Tenho visto tanta coisa, menos a felicidade. Correm os meus dedos longos em versos dos dias que invento. Nem aquilo a que me entrego já me traz contentamento. Pode ser até amanhã, cedo, claro como dia, mas nada do que me dizem me faz sentir alegria. Eu só queria ter no mar um gosto de framboesa, pra correr entre os canteiros e esconder minha tristeza. Que eu ainda sou bem moço pra tanta tristeza. Deixemos de coisa, cuidamos da vida, pois se chega a morte ou coisa parecida, e nos arrasta moço sem ter visto a vida. É que eu ainda sou bem moço pra tanta tristeza. Deixemos de coisa, cuidemos da vida, pois se chega a morte ou coisa parecida, e nos arrasta moço sem ter visto a vida. Muito obrigado. Pagode em Cococá, via nega rebolar. Tá portei de tafetá. Beijei meu patuá, oi, foi samba, oi, lá. Carrefour, o rendezvous vai começar. Além de me empurrar, pesquisa tamanduá. Com a Jesuíta do Zanzibar. Aí eu migrei, vai levar fumão, bom bom baque, que zanga, sou primo de filé, ganhou. Voilà, e salva, patati, patata, por levar saravá. Sou da Praça Mauá, vender matinê, pra beber meu petit comité bambolê. Encaçar com você, ai, São Mitterrand, marcamos pra amanhã em Tafetá, no flamboyant em flare, onde eu vou ter colher e bombado que Zulu, mandando lá, e bombado que Zulu, mandando lá. Muito obrigado, Alexandre Lora, na percussão. E nessa boa onda toda. Me chamo Luiz Zodé, foi um prazer enorme tocando nesse evento da BX20. Esperamos poder repetir outras vezes, e no formato que seja necessário. E deixo um abraço a todos. Obrigado.
Driverless cars, connected services, new sharing concepts. The automotive industry is in the midst of change. The Internet of Things is opening up a whole new world of possibilities that will push the boundaries of mobility. But what will the future really look like on the roads? One thing is for certain. New technologies are going to revolutionize today's mobility. They will turn the journey into a digitally enhanced experience and connect the vehicle to its surroundings. With Bosch, connected mobility is becoming a reality. More efficient, safer, and more comfortable and convenient.
Itaú Veículos. Soluções completas, ferramentas modernas, alta tecnologia. Reconhecimento facial, mais segurança e agilidade na compra e venda de veículos. Chat na plataforma digital. Comunicação mais fácil entre a concessionária e nosso time. Open Banking. União entre plataformas e parceiros. Inteligência artificial. Essencial na captura e gestão de leads. Soluções de mobilidade. Com a Connect Car, seu cliente vai mais longe. Olhamos para o futuro. Queremos sempre mais. Vamos juntos? Itaú Veículos. Nosso negócio é viabilizar o seu.
Mounting exterior automotive parts can be a slow process that requires the use of a noxious chemical adhesion promoter. However, our Tesa ACX primerless line of high-performance double-sided acrylic foam tapes eliminates the need for primers. These tapes quickly achieve a high level of strength and provide the thermal expansion characteristics needed when mounting side moldings, decorative trims, emblems, and other exterior attachment parts. To learn more about the benefits and cost savings of using our Tesa ACX Plus primerless line on difficult-to-bond substrates such as polypropylene EPDM, TPO, and TPE, visit tesatape.com.